Niko na shamba 2 acres na ninalima ng'ombe na ninalima kuku, ninalima chakula ya ng'ombe na ninalima dairy goat na kuku. Hata niko na vision jani yangu hapa nilichora. Sijui ninaweza waonyesha. Haya, sasa hapa nilikuwa na kang'ombe karoko. Kale ng'ombe roko mwenye hakuwa anatoa maziwa, alikuwa anatoa 3 liters. So nikataka kuimprove, nikauza huyo, nikanunua mwingine. Sasa mwenye niko naye mwenye nilikamua asubuhi, wakati sasa amezaa huo ninakamua 15 liters per day, na ninazidi kumpe mbegu ndio aweze kuimprove. Ndio sasa watoto wenye watazaa niwe na ng'ombe wa kukamua 3 times per day. Haya. Sasa na vision yangu nataka na vision na ndio nilichora hivi, nikipata ng'ombe mzuri niwe nimeitengenezea unit mzuri, si kama vile mliona hii yangu yenye ninachota maji hapo nikimwaga huko. Alafu sasa nikiwa na unit mzuri nitengeneze hata biogas. From biogas niwe na mapato mzuri, kwa sababu niko na ng'ombe mzuri wananipa mapato, niweze kusomesha watoto mpaka wa graduate wawe kama nyinyi. Sasa hapa ndio niwe na nyumba mzuri. Wakati mwingine mkikuja hamtanipata hapa. Niwe na kanyumba mzuri kama hii ya mawe. Alafu sasa hata nitoke ka ng'ombe hii ya kukamua 30 nifikishe kama zile ninasikia za 40. Na hata mimi niwe na kagari yangu hapa nimechora hapa. Kagari yangu niwe ninajipelekea products zangu. Vision yangu naomba Mungu aisaidie. Kama haya challenge nimesema hapa nisikutane nayo, ndio niweze kuwa na opportunities nyingi, niweze kufikia challenge zangu, niweze kufikia vision yangu.
Welcome to the Case for Productivity, Invigorating Agriculture for the 21st Century. I'm Ann Steensland, and I lead the Global Agricultural Productivity Initiative at the Virginia Tech College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. Every October, we publish the Global Agricultural Productivity Report, or GAP report, which tracks productivity around the world. The GAP initiative engages students, faculty, and our partners in agribusiness, research, and development to explore how productivity supports sustainability, food security and nutrition, and economic growth. Since 2010, we have consistently advocated for increasing productivity in all scales of agriculture, with the goal of producing sufficient, nutritious, affordable food, as well as feed, fiber, and bioenergy for nearly 10 billion people in 2050. Currently, a global debate is taking place about how to transform food and agricultural systems to meet the challenges and needs of the decades to come. Some have argued that productivity-focused strategies are unsustainable and antithetical to the transformational visions of agriculture being discussed in current debates. So the question we are asking today is, does productivity still matter? And the answer is a resounding yes. In this program, we will share a vision for invigorating food and agricultural systems through productivity growth to meet the needs of a growing world while addressing the global threats to environmental and human well-being. Let's start with a discussion of what we mean by agricultural productivity, how it's measured, how it grows, and most importantly, what happens if it doesn't.
During the next 30 years, the world's population will grow larger and more prosperous. Demand will soar for agricultural goods, especially high-value products such as meat, milk, fruits and vegetables, timber, oilseeds, and bioenergy. How do we meet this demand while climate change threatens the health and availability of our land and water resources? Productivity growth is imperative for meeting the needs of a growing world while addressing the threats to human and environmental well-being. This can be achieved by increasing the productivity of agricultural producers, especially the small-scale producers who grow most of the world's food. So, what is agricultural productivity? In agriculture, productivity is measured as total factor productivity, or TFP. When more crops, livestock, and aquaculture products are produced using the same amount or less land, labor, fertilizer, machinery, feed, and livestock, that is an increase in TFP. Agricultural productivity growth is driven by the adoption of innovative technologies and practices. This can include precision agriculture equipment and data, advanced transgenic and hybrid seed varieties, best practices for nutrient and water management, and improved animal care practices and genetics, as well as attention to ecosystem services and biodiversity. Increasingly, small-scale producers have access to these and other technologies and information, and those who do can thrive. With healthier feed and improved animal housing, a small-scale dairy farmer in Kenya can increase milk output with fewer animals, less feed, and reduced methane emissions. By cultivating mangoes with drip irrigation, a farmer in India can harvest a robust crop using less land and water. Total factor productivity needs to grow by an average of 1.73% per year to sustainably produce the agricultural products needed in 2050. But the most recent data show that we aren't keeping up, especially in low-income countries where many smallholder farmers live. What happens if we don't meet our productivity goals? Without productive land management practices, 90% of the Earth's soils could be degraded by erosion by 2050, and forests and biodiverse areas will be destroyed for planting or pasture. Without productivity growth in the livestock sector, 20 million more dairy cattle and buffalo will be needed in India alone to meet domestic demand for milk products. Without an acceleration in TFP growth, low-income countries will need to import agricultural products to meet the needs of consumers, leading to higher food prices. Small-scale farmers, particularly women, will struggle with high labor burdens, poverty, and food insecurity. Without productivity growth in the fruit and vegetable sector, low-income households will struggle to afford a diverse, healthy diet. Without improvements in water use efficiency, water sources will be depleted, making prime agricultural land unusable. Strategic policies, investments, and partnerships support and accelerate productivity growth. By working together, we can increase agricultural productivity and invigorate our food and agricultural systems for the 21st century.
As we've just seen, increasing the productivity of small and emerging producers must be a top priority, yet there are formidable obstacles to overcome. The GAP Initiative's consultative partners are on the front lines of this challenge around the world. Several of them discussed the needs of smaller producers and their work with them in a conversation with my colleague, Tom Thompson.
Welcome to this important discussion of the importance of productivity growth and the challenges faced by farmers around the world. I'm Tom Thompson, Associate Dean and Director of CALS Global and the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at Virginia Tech. I am also Executive Editor of the GAP Report. As we have just seen, productivity growth is essential to sustainably meet the demand for agricultural products in 2050. The consequences of not meeting our productivity goals on our environment, our economy, and human well-being will be profound. We have a distinguished panel today to discuss productivity growth with experience and perspectives from Sub-Saharan Africa, India, Latin America, and the Commonwealth of Virginia. All of our panelists represent one of the GAP initiative's consultative or supporting partners. Pawan Kumar is Director of Agricultural Development for the S.M. Sehgal Foundation in India. The Sehgal Foundation promotes sustainable livelihoods by building the capacities of farmers, including women producers, on improved agricultural practices and new technologies that increase crop yields, conserve water, and improve soil fertility. Mel Aluch is Regional Director of Sasakawa Africa Association in Ethiopia. Sasakawa builds the capacity of smallholder farmers and extension service providers in sub-Saharan Africa along the entire agricultural value chain to sustainably increase productivity in response to market demand. Megan Seibel is the inaugural director of the Valor program at Virginia Tech, a land-grant university in Virginia. The Valor program maximizes opportunities for developing strong leaders and collaborative partnerships necessary for the optimal future of the agricultural industry. Megan and her family also farm near Roanoke, Virginia. Jenya Truitt Nakata is the Director of Latin America and the Caribbean at the International Potato Center, or SIP, where she provides programmatic oversight, leadership, and strategic direction for SIP's Research for Development portfolio in the region. Thanks to all of you for being here. So I'll first direct the first question at Jenya. So Jenya, what are you hearing from producers about the challenges they're facing and what they need to be more productive?
Hi, Tom. Thank you. That's actually a really important question right now in Latin America, and particularly in the areas that we work in, SIP, in the Andean countries. There has been this last season, once again, a tremendous out-of-season frost. And this climate challenge and these extreme weather events throughout the Andes are becoming more and more frequent, unfortunately, over time. What the producers tend to do, our smallholder farmers, in order to kind of prepare for these types of events, is they actually plant in more than one parcela, as we call it in Spanish, right? So they have different areas. Instead of it being more efficient and able to plant everything in one nice field, they plant in a number of different places. What that tells you is that this is an extremely inefficient way of preparing for frost, because there's got to be a better way. And what we have found, and what the producers could really use, are tools to help them work through these types of challenges, through these types of frost and other climatic events that are happening all the time.
Megan, could you please answer that question next? And as you do so, we really appreciate hearing about your family's farm, and also if you'd like to answer that question from the perspective of a farmer.
So my family produces beef cattle and also wine grapes. And especially kind of in the grape market, where in the United States, we're experimenting with varieties that grow very well here, but that are popular globally when we're in competition with wines that are produced in South America, Australia, Europe, and trying to think through what those look like. And when we think about producer challenges, there's a number of them, but one of the ones that I hear that occurs most frequently across all types of crops is that of climate change, and trying to think through how we're going to address pieces that are impacting us. A lot of the conversation now is around the fact that with changing implications of climate and the need to do more mechanized things because of the cost of labor, we may be looking at new varietals that are not things that current customers are consuming at this time. And so how do we sort of develop the market value of a new product while at the same time thinking about the things that we're going to need to be able to grow it at a maximum production rate and also sustainably into the future?
Thanks, Megan. Pawan, what about you? Again, the question is, what are you hearing from producers about the challenges they're facing and what they need to be more productive?
So thanks, Tom. In India, basically, the majority of farmers, more than 80% of farmers, are small and marginal landholders. I think 2-3 things are very important. One is the farmer required good extension services. He need real-time information about weather. He need information about the market. He need support about the credit. He needs support about the access to good quality seeds, availability of the fertilizer on times. The second is the supply chain, management. Once the production is over, what next? So post-harvest management play a very critical role, to sell their produce at the market where he can have some good prices of their produce. So this technology innovation is required because farmer has to manage, to increase their productivity, increase nutritional value of their produce. So in the same piece of land.
Thank you, Pawan. Mel?
In Africa, where we work as Sasaka Africa Association, the challenges are myriad. And chief among these challenges is climate change, where farmers keeps on experiencing weather unpredictability, which cannot allow them to be able to carry out agriculture activities in time. Majority of farmers have very low productivity because the inputs are not accessible. And even when they are accessible, the prices are beyond the range of most of the smallholder farmers. Access to knowledge is actually a very significant challenge in Africa. We have a situation where there's very poor extension and advisory support services. And in some country, extension services just does not function at all. So there need to be a situation where we need to reduce the gap between the farmer and extension services. Chief among these challenges, which is a big determining factor for most of these farmers, is access to markets. Quite often, the market prices are very variable, and farmers do not actually know the correct market prices, such that they undergo a loss when they take their produce to the market.
Thank you very much, Mel. And our next question is one that, Mel, I would appreciate your responding first to this question, please. What do you see as maybe one or two key innovations, areas of research, or improved practices that you think are key to productivity growth in the scale of agriculture that you're most familiar with?
Key amongst this is digitalization of the agriculture services. Towards this aspect, we need to see how best we can scale up our approaches, especially in terms of generating knowledge and transferring knowledge and other technologies to farmers. And through this, e-extension has become a very important sector in terms of being able to bridge the gap, to be able to reach as many farmers as possible with the latest information to ensure that farmers have the right knowledge and the right technologies at the right time. We need to move into regenerative agriculture because part of the problem is the soil degradation and the loss of soil health for most African farmers because they engage in practices which is not helping to improve the soils where they farm. And this needs involve sustainable intensification and areas like integrated soil fertility management and bringing in other aspects like integrated pest management to help improve the soil health that can help improve the plant health, animal health to allow for improved productivity.
Over to you, Jenya.
I would say that first of all, revaluing and strengthening participatory action research would be crucial because when you look at We do work mostly with the smallholder farmers. And what we found, what we learned from them and they learn from us when we're working side by side in these fields is tremendous. And when you do that kind of a research, some of the things that you learn are things that seem obvious, but they often go unrecognized and overlooked. So this collective type of research and implementation takes longer, if you will, than maybe your standard, I'm going to produce something and disseminate it on out. But the adoption rates are 100% because they're helping you to co-create and design precisely on what each of these communities need. So that's, I think, that type of, while it may not sound very innovative, it actually is because you're taking their innovations and also looking at how you can improve them.
Megan, what about you next?
Farmers have a great desire to be responsible in establishing best management practices and doing what it is that they need to do. And primarily for some of the challenges that have been mentioned. I think some of the pieces that go with that, though, are areas of research around disease and pest management in particular, thinking through varietals and crops that can be managed in a way that help us deal with things. I think because of the expense of labor and the cost of the inputs, that's where we have some opportunity for innovative improvements around precision technology and things that allow us to better target application of nutrients and pesticides. Those machines, in being highly specialized, are also extremely costly. So I think some of the innovations actually are coming from the producer side, where they are thinking more cooperatively about how to share equipment, for example, or figure out a way to coordinate their efforts so that they can share labor pools, order chemicals in bulk, and be able to share some of those costs.
Good. Pawan?
We need to provide information. We need to provide, the support to small farmer so that he can produce enough from the same piece of land. And for that, he need, the credit support from the government. He need, the technology support from the government. He need real-time information on weather so that he can manage, the resources. And also water is going to be, the major issue in India, because still, as I said, that still 64% land is rainfall. So the technology related to the water conservation is very important.
Please describe a partnership that your organization has working with producers to improve their productivity. Pawan, could you start us out on that, please?
Yeah. So we are working with the Mosaic fertilizer. So, and it's one of the very successful partnerships we are running from. And the focus of that partnership is basically to educate farmer through field demonstration. So, like I said, that there's a mismatch of the need of the soil, need of the crop, and what farmer is applying to the soil. So we provide an integrated solution to the farmer. We go for the soil testing, and based on soil testing reports, so there is a recommendation. So we provide a package of practice for half acre, and half acre we allow farmer to follow their own practices, what traditional practices is following, so that he can learn, learning by seeing. So the advantage of this, that there is an adoption of more than 70% farmer who adopt these practices next year. And as a result, their productivity is enhanced by 20 to 25%.
Thank you. Megan, what about a productivity enhancing partnership?
So I actually appreciate that extension has been mentioned a couple of times, because I think extension as a service and what it means for facilitating research that's conducted and then taken to the field and applied through practice, and the communication and education pieces that go with that are really important around the world. A step up on that type partnership, I think that I've seen work really well is as a member of an industry board of directors that supports an industry in the state. So for example, in the grape industry, the sales that come in off of the products that are made from those grapes go directly back into continued research for those crops. the people that are on that board that represent growers and represent business owners help articulate the research agenda for the industry and help determine which research projects get funded. Those kinds of partnerships are really, really valuable because we've got sort of crop science and production pieces of it, but then the connection with the people that are receiving that food product and giving them an opportunity to reinvest into the research that helps it continue.
Thank you. Mel, tell us about a partnership.
As Sasakawa Africa Association, we've been involved in establishing a lot of farmer organizations. And a typical farm organization is about 20 to 25 farmers in a group who we train, we equip them with skills on productivity enhancing technologies, post-harvest and value addition, business development services, and then link them to markets to be able to market their produce as a group. Some of the key innovations we have carried out with these farm organizations is establishing what we call one-stop centers. Now, one-stop centers are basically value chain centers where farmers come together as a group. They establish all operations to be able to provide services to other farmers in the community. It's also a platform for farmers to be able to learn all operations as well as to be able to access all the key inputs which they need and be able to access the markets because they work together as a group. In communities where we establish these centers, productivity has gone up, motivation by the farmers has gone up, increase in knowledge has gone up, and the confidence to be able to do things which they were not able to do before, which can help improve their income, has gone.
Jenya, please tell us about a SIP partnership that is enhancing productivity.
So one of the things that we've established under our Andean initiative at the International Potato Center is what we're calling co-laboratories. And so we have our first collaboratory being established as we speak with Asociación Patas. And what Asociación Patas is it's a group of mining companies, because in Peru in particular, in this case, there are a lot of mining companies, and Poderosa is a mining company that we have a long-standing partnership, and they recognize that their workers need sustenance, they need food security, they need other ways of securing their nutrition and health. With Poderosa, we were looking at what type of potato supports their workers in that particular zone. We also are working with the local technology on the variety, diversity, nutrition, interventions, digital, again, that digital advisor I mentioned before. So working together directly with them, how can we produce productivity, prepare for these climatic events? And this is our one precise example I'd like to mention.
Great, thank you. Now, Megan, maybe you can kick us off for this next question. I think it's a fascinating time to be involved in agriculture and food because I think there is so much interest among the public now in where their food comes from. And given that level of consumer interest in food and agriculture today, what do consumers need to understand about the importance of productivity growth and the role of innovation in achieving it?
I think this is a really fascinating question and good to unpack. We know that, obviously there's a desire to implement new technologies and innovative ways in agriculture, but I think sometimes, even though technology seems to be advancing at a very quick pace, the specialized technologies that we need in agriculture often take much longer to develop. And then the other piece of that I'm not sure that all consumers really understand is that in order to get things to the marketplace for them and for their convenience, there is a lot of risk, especially for the producers in doing that. When a new chemical or a new machine is being used on someone's farm, if it does not go as expected, and they potentially lose an entire crop cycle as a result of it, that financial burden is then very much on the part of that farmer. And if it's a small farming operation, that's difficult to bear. And so I think sometimes in consumers' zeal to learn about where their food comes from and how it's produced, really understanding the full picture of that system, and that sometimes there are independent people in that who have a lot to lose and are very small in their footprint, but at the same time critical in helping meet the bigger demand.
Thank you. Awan, what do you think?
In India, the challenge is that youth are not very sensitive towards agriculture. So because agriculture is subsistence, they don't see agriculture as nobody want to do agriculture at the field. They want to consume, they want to have a good produce, they want to have good quality produce, they want to have a nutritional food. But they need to be sensitized actually. How hard is to, like country like India, where there's a lot of, the lack of resources, there's a lot of challenge to the farmers, So how farmers are producing and when it is reaching to the, the consumer plates. So I think from Indian consumer point of view, there's a extreme need to sensitize our youth to move back into the agriculture professions. And to understand how this agriculture is very challenging in India and what solution they can, provide to this agriculture.
Over to you, Jenya.
One way to grow that productivity is for us to begin to welcome that agrobiodiversity. So one of the challenges that we face is that a lot of our producers don't have access to bigger markets because they want them to produce all of this product of the exact same size and of a particular quantity that they simply can't produce. And so by insisting on this homogeneity, we're actually losing out on all kinds of agrobiodiversity and varieties. And so what I would like consumers to know is that when we talk about innovation, what kind of innovations can we introduce so that these producers don't have to be cookie cutter, one size fits all, in order to actually access those markets, and the loss to consumers by demanding everything look exactly the same.
Thank you. Mel, what do you wish that consumers knew about the importance of productivity growth and innovation needed to achieve it?
Now, consumers need to understand that we need to build our soil health and to reduce soil degradation. Good, healthy soil also improves the plant nutrition status, which leads to the consumption of nutrient-dense foods, especially micronutrients like zinc and vitamin A, with, of course, the resultant improvement in health. So what is needed here is innovation where the nutrient content of some of these foods should be branded to allow consumers to be aware that what they are consuming will be able to not only nourish their needs, but be able to improve their health in a big way.
Thank you. This has been such a rich discussion, and it's been a privilege to talk with experts representing 4 continents and joining us across multiple time zones. And there's so much great discussion that we had here. There are a few themes that I think emerged. We heard several times about climate change, and that's a common challenge that we're going to face in agriculture across continents and across scales of agriculture. What we've heard a lot about in the last few minutes is the importance of providing farmers access to productivity enhancing technology and practices, and the importance of giving farmers access to relevant and timely information through research, through extension, and through digital tools. Thanks to all of you for being part of this very important discussion.
Productivity growth at all scales of agriculture is driven by the adoption of innovative technologies and improved practices. I recently had the opportunity to speak with the GAP Initiative's supporting partners about their efforts to develop and disseminate science-based and information technologies, as well as technical knowledge, to farmers of all scales around the world. I'm delighted to introduce our next panel representing some of the world's leading agribusinesses and food producers. First, we have Jennifer Billings. She is the Global Agricultural Development Lead for Corteva Agriscience. Stuart Lease is Chief Sustainability Officer for Smithfield Foods. Ben Pratt is Senior Vice President of Government and Public Affairs at The Mosaic Company. Natasha Santos is the Vice President of Global Stakeholder Strategy at Bayer Crop Science. Aaron Wetzel is Vice President of Small Ag and Turf Production Systems at John Deere. So our first question today is, what are you hearing from producers about the challenges they are facing and what they need to be more productive? And Aaron, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask what you at John Deere are hearing from producers about what they need.
Some of the challenges that they're facing today is around labor shortages and increasing input costs. And while we think that there are opportunities there to help solve those needs, we're developing through our smart industrial strategy a strong focus on technology that our customers, regardless of their size, are going to be able to take advantage of. We also know customers are wanting to be more sustainable in their overall practices, as this helps them improve their profitability in their operations. Making sure that they can spray their fields with, the right amount of chemicals to help control the pests or weed conditions that they've got. No more or no less is what's needed.
Great, thank you. Natasha, what are you all hearing at Bayer from the folks that you work with?
So we think that sustainability is the next leap that can connect the productivity to new incentivization mechanisms around sustainability. One example, which I think we have all been working on, is around carbon plus farming, is around incentivizing farmers that to capture carbon in their soils and incentivizing farmers with a few opportunities in terms of de-risking the transitions, in terms of bringing actually reward for them for the way that they farm around those sustainability practices. So I think the new frontier that will meet sustainability with productivity is that we think about access to the technologies, but as well as incentivizing, helping farmers to be more profitable as well for the way that they produce, not only of what they produce.
Ben, what are your thoughts in terms of the challenges that producers are facing in terms of crop nutrition and other issues?
Thanks, and we're hearing a lot of the same things that Aaron and Natasha talked about, but an additional area of concern, especially here in North America, is the rising threat of government regulation, especially as it relates to water quality and water quantity. And that can lead some producers to make choices that can hurt their productivity. And then I would highlight in India an interesting problem for growers there, in addition to the deep struggles they have currently with COVID. The Indian farmers are heavily dependent on their federal government for fertilizer subsidies. And at the moment, fertilizer subsidy rates are not high enough, especially on phosphates, to make Indian farmers have enough incentive to buy the fertilizer they need.
Jennifer, talk to us about what you're hearing at Corteva from your producers.
So in my role at Corteva, I work most closely with smallholder farmers. And as many of you know, smallholder farmers produce the majority of the world's food. They also face significant challenges to production and markets and access to quality inputs. And in my experience, a huge component and a key component of smallholder farmer production is access to quality seeds. A lot of smallholder farmers do not have consistent market access to quality hybrid seeds that will allow them to realize a strong yield at harvest time. And seeds, in particular, when they are high yielding, climate adaptive, can have a very, very big impact on productivity. In addition, crop protection products that can help and empower smallholder farmers to address threats to their crops, such as invasive pests like fall armyworm, are very, very critical to ensuring that smallholder farmers have productive crops and high yields.
Stuart, talk to us a little bit about the livestock sector.
We're seeing the same thing: high input costs, the need to diversify and find new ways of generating income on family farms. So we've been partnering with our family farms to produce manure to energy projects, producing renewable natural gas on farms, which promises really to provide a whole new source of income, at least in the United States, for those farmers, which wasn't here before.
Great. Those are all great examples of what's needed and what's starting to happen in agriculture to address some of the key problems that producers at all scales are facing around the world. And I wanted to hear from each of you a little bit about maybe some specific examples of things that you really think are going to be game changers in your industry for farmers going forward.
At John Deere, we're very focused on driving innovation as one of our core values as a company, and has been for 184 years. Within our small ag and turf business that I have the opportunity to be a part of, we're actually looking to bring that connectivity solutions to a broader range of our portfolio, namely our smaller tractor business, serving customers in Latin America, in Asia, in Central Europe, as well as India. And I'm very excited about the opportunities we see to bring a connectivity device through the tractor to our India contractors, giving them a chance to do more around documentation, being able to meet local regulations, ensuring more sustainable operations, and improving their overall productivity by the use of the technology.
Stuart, talk to us a little bit about the livestock sector.
Yeah, so, I mean, similar to what Aaron was talking about, we've been working on precision ag issues and improvements with our grain supply for quite some time in partnerships with Environmental Defense Fund and some major customers. In fact, years ago, we started and engaged to try to engage 75% of our grain supply with these types of techniques. Manure to energy has substantially changed. We've been at it for a couple of decades, trying to figure out how to extract energy from really what is a waste stream and a nutrient stream from the farms. And we've been working in connection with joint ventures with a major energy company, Dominion, as well as Raceline Energy in the Midwest, to install digesters and covered lagoons on waste management systems on hog farms. And what's changed really is that we're pooling those farms together, either through trucking connections or pipeline connections, to bring renewable natural gas from those digesters and from those lagoons to central points where it's refined. It's mostly methane to begin with, but it's refined and then put into natural gas pipelines and then marketed as an RNG. So it's really a game changer.
Great. Natasha, talk to us a little bit about the crop science sector and some of the innovations that you see coming through and really making an impact.
I really love this question, actually, because innovation is all that we are about in Bayer. And there is one example which I think is very representative, with which we have launched in the Americas in corn, which is very representative of how we see the future in terms of that systemic solutions enabled by digital platforms. And one example I wanted to bring today is our short stature corn system. It's ultra high density planting, measure maximum height of 7 feet, and can be planted as narrow as 20 inches with higher planting rates of seeds per hectare with no additional water or input use. It's really that bridge between productivity and sustainability. It makes it resistant to lodging. It makes it precision agriculture with easier target application. It helps with reducing crop loss in fields, resulting from that volatile environment. So you even put that into consideration, the climate resilient aspect of it, enable sustainable intensification even further, there is that opportunity for optimization of nitrogen in water. And we are investigating that the system can really contribute to the reduction of GHG. So it's really that systemic approach with innovation, and that brings that sustainability element. And I think that's really how we see the future. And I think that's really added value to our farmers' customers that we are very proud of.
Jennifer, talk to us about what is happening at Corteva and where you see the possibilities for increased productivity through technology and better products.
So I see the key innovations as hybrid seeds. And in truth, a lot of the hybrid seeds that we market at Corteva to smallholder farmers have been around for quite a number of years and are pretty incredible in what they can do. And so, in my mind, there are a lot of quality seed options out there already. And it's more the challenge of actually scaling them in the markets to smallholder farmers that I hope will continue to be a greater focus for both private sector and development partners. I also think that there are a lot of exciting different new technologies that are developed or being developed. Everything from green chemistry, award-winning biological products like the ones that we have for fall armyworm, to one of our best new products, which is related to it's a herbicide related to farming of rice, and it allows for direct seeded rice. So it allows for a significant reduction in water usage because you don't have to flood the fields anymore. It's just two examples from Corteva. There's also many, many other companies and public research institutions out there developing some really exciting new innovations that will be very important tools for smallholder farmers and all farmers around the world as well.
Ben, what's new in crop nutrition, either in technology or practices or both?
Thanks, Ann. I acknowledge up front that the fertilizer industry has probably been a little slow to the technology game in agriculture, among other agriculture companies and sectors, but we are certainly trying to catch up. We're working hard to create new products that will produce better nutrient use efficiency. Really, this is at the nexus between soil health, water quality, and climate smart agricultural practices that help growers be part of the solution to climate change. And at the same time, close productivity gaps we see around the world. Mosaic, for example, recently launched several key and very promising soil health strategic partnerships where we're looking at new products to reduce environmental impacts while boosting yields. For instance, we're looking at biostimulants and biologicals and other products that help fix more fertilizer in the soil and help plants have better access to the nutrients they need. We've made several important commitments to make progress there over the past several months.
Great. Next question has to do with partnerships and the different ways that your companies are involved around the world to help farmers at all different scales improve their productivity. And Ben, I'm actually going to come back to you.
Yeah, we're very proud of what we call the Mosaic Villages program. And the program in India specifically is called Krishi Jyoti, which means enlightened agriculture. We've been engaged there for 12 years, and we've impacted hundreds of thousands of lives by going into communities, rural communities, where almost all the farmers farm 1 or less hectares. And we help them understand first how to use better plant nutrition. But we don't just teach them how to use fertilizer. We also, in many areas, we build check dams so that Indian farmers have access to water year-round instead of just during the monsoon season. And we also go and renovate schools in these communities to try to keep the communities whole and keep them intact year-round. A lot of the farmers in the areas where we're working typically would have been itinerant workers for part of the year to try to make ends meet for their family. With this program, we have been able to keep most of those farmers with their families home and even selling surplus food at profit. So we're very proud of the whole program and the impact it's having, and we are ever expanding to new areas.
Jennifer, Corteva has some great partnerships around the world working with smallholder farmers. Could you describe a couple of them for us?
So two of the partnerships that I'm most excited about at the moment that we launched just this past year are a partnership in Kenya related to women smallholder dairy farmers. And we're working closely with Land O'Lakes Venture 37, Forage Genetics International, the International Livestock Research Institute, and others to advance this partnership that is all about empowering women smallholder dairy farmers to have access to quality feed, which includes corn silage, in order for them to improve the quantity and quality that the dairy cows are producing. And that is all to address a chronic shortage in the Kenyan market for dairy products. And another partnership that I'm also very excited about is our partnership with John Deere and Global Communities and USAID in Zambia. And this partnership is focused on building the capacity of emergent farmers to be fully commercialized, so to have access to credit, quality inputs, mechanization, linkages to market, so that those emergent farmers who are on about 20 to 60 hectares of land can have full commercialization, can be food secure, can improve their livelihoods, and can really help catalyze the ag industry and the food security in Zambia.
Stuart, you referenced a partnership you have with Environmental Defense Fund. Do you want to share some more about that, or any other partnerships you all are involved in?
Partnership with the Environmental Defense Fund goes back to 2013, and it was geared toward adding precision farming techniques in our grain supply chain. And one of the things that it did was help family farms and small growers in the eastern part of the United States, which is corn deficient. We have large herds of animals in the east, both hogs and other animals, and we literally import corn into the east from the Midwest of the United States or from overseas. The partnership really helped us do was establish new markets and new sources of grain in the east, where they would provide, these farmers would grow additional crops, whether it's winter wheat as a cover crop, or additional crops and different crops like sorghum and other things. And we provided a market for those to our feed mills. And really, as a practical result of that, we were able to source much of our grain in the East Coast from farmers that are locally owned and operated in those areas, as opposed to the Midwest or even overseas. So it's been a real great success in terms of smaller scale farming.
Natasha, I'm going to come to you.
Thank you. And I think I'll look at two examples which we are very proud of. One of those focusing particularly in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. It's around banana, and the challenge is actually probably is the most challenging issue in the banana production in half a century, which is the Tier 4 disease. The Tier 4 disease has no solution today. And we realize that not only because of how fast it's spread, but how impactful that can be for smallholders, not only from a production point of view and from a source of income, but as well from a source of calorie intake. In some regions of the world, is almost 1/6 of their calorie intake. And we, with a few partners, created the Global Alliance on Tier 4 to look at three main areas of solution, to look at training and prevention. So training farmers, helping them to prevent from spreading. The second area is genetics and breeding. And the third aspect is the biological and chemical methods of control. What are the solutions that exist that can be applied in certain way that can help them to control? Today, we already have around 20 partners from all over the world. It's really growing. And then perhaps a second one in the area of sustainability is actually our carbon initiative that we launched in the US and Brazil. We are today rewarding farmers for the way they produce. In the US, up to $9 per hectare per year. and looking at practice like no-till practice that do help captures carbon in soil, but as well support increased soil health.
Great. Aaron, coming to you.
One example I wanted to point to really is a recent agreement that we have forged with a company called Smart Control Systems. And they're really focused on the high value crop segment, which is different for me from a John Deere where we're very focused on corn and soybeans, but it's an area of focus for us as part of our new smart industrial strategy to look at the grower needs for high value crop producers. The smart control system has a product called Smart Apply Intelligent Spray Control System. And what this does, it provides the potential for reducing chemical drift on spray applications in high-value crops like orchards, almonds, other high-value crop applications. And it also decreases the amount of chemicals being applied. So again, saving money for the producers in this particular segment. It's improving sustainability by putting the exact amount of chemical that's needed, no more, no less. And so contributes really to the environment around us, maximizes profits for our growers, and maintains that agronomic efficacy that the growers are also looking for.
I think we all understand the importance of innovation and productivity to producers, but it may not be something that consumers think about a lot, even though they're increasingly interested in where their food comes from. What do they need to know about innovation and productivity and sustainability in their food systems? Natasha, I'm going to start with you on that.
I think we all have a responsibility to help build the bridge between the production and between the consumers, the farmers and the consumers, and we should be doing that as private sector in partnership with our farmers customer. The opportunity here is how we position innovation around consumer demands in sustainability, right? The farmers are the stewards of their lands. They do care about their land. They need to have increased productivity, to have a sustainable income. And I think now we are in the opportunity to showcase how innovation is directly contributing to the biggest challenges in the world, from food security, as we have been saying for some time, but now climate change. Agriculture is the solution and can be much more of the solution if policies incentivize the farmers and help with the science-based policy with the right metrics to showcase that agriculture can be the solution.
Jennifer, what are your thoughts?
I hear a lot of conversations, particularly this year. There's been a lot of thought leadership and dialogue around global food systems. And I think that it is extremely important that we all come together, both public and private sector, to build a food system that's inclusive and resilient. And to me, most importantly, meets the needs of all people. When I think of smallholder farmers, I think of them as entrepreneurs. They're running a business. They're running their farms as a business, and they're investing in things like technologies, like mechanization, like quality inputs, like hybrid seeds and crop protection products in order to improve their business. As well as increase their yield and contribute to both local and regional food systems. And I think it's really exciting to work with smallholder farmers because they're some of the most passionate and hardworking people that you will ever meet.
Stuart, Smithfield is a food company. Consumers buy your product. How are you communicating with them about what you do at Smithfield and why you do it the way you do it?
As you pointed out, Ann, I mean, there are changing consumer views. They want to know, where their food comes from, what's in it. If you're talking about animals and on farms, how the animal's treated, and all those things are important. And it's more important now than ever for food producers to be transparent about those things. But there's a lot of misunderstanding as well. In terms of modern food production, the pork industry itself has over the last 50 years, not just Smithfield, but modern pork production has reduced water use substantially, land use substantially, even greenhouse gas emissions, energy use, substantial reductions, demonstrable reductions over time. And the only way we can do that is through modern farming techniques. So we try to do that and demonstrate how we're doing it in a transparent way. I mean, we have, for example, virtual reality video would bring you into our farms in a way that's almost like you were there. You can see what's going on in our farms. You can see what the animals are doing, and if folks are interested, you can actually virtually go to a farm and see some of these techniques in action.
Ben, I know that consumers are also very concerned about fertilizer use in their food. What do they need to understand about the role of fertilizer and why it's so important?
But we often say that fertilizer accounts for half of all crop yields. And so one benefit of that is that it supports life on the planet. Another benefit is that fertilizer helps avoid bringing new lands into production and helps avoid negative impacts like deforestation. And so, fertilizer plays a key role in all productivity, and especially mass productivity. We need huge production in all parts of the world to meet the demand that's going to be there for decades to come. They need food and affordable food, and that's what all of our companies collectively are here to provide.
Aaron, I think many people around the world have a very clear picture in their mind of what a John Deere tractor looks like, but they probably don't have a clue everything that happens with John Deere technology, what it's capable of, and what the benefits are for them and for producers that use your mechanization products.
For us at John Deere, we see the same things that the panel has been talking about. Population on the earth is planning to grow significantly over the next few decades. We're going to have to feed all of those people, and we need to produce more out of the available resources we have and do so in a sustainable way. What I find in my travels around the world, meeting with customers from Brazil to Russia to India to the US, is they are similarly aligned in focusing on the sustainability of the land that they are responsible for, because that is their main productive asset. They need to make sure that piece of land continues to produce and do so in a sustainable manner. So I feel like there's alignment, but there's more opportunities from a communication perspective to build that alignment forward.
Great. Well, we've had some wonderful comments here today, and I think some very good insights, and we can certainly see some common threads running through the work that all of your companies are doing. Well, thanks again, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time. The challenges facing our agricultural systems are daunting, but with innovative technologies and best farm management practices, combined with attention to ecosystem services and biodiversity, we can increase productivity growth and ensure the sustainability of our food and agricultural systems for decades to come. For more information and resources on agricultural productivity, look at our website, globalagriculturalproductivity.org, and look for our 2021 GAP report coming in October. Thank you for joining us.